Okay, ready to go.
Hi, my name's Erick Thompson. I'm a documentary filmmaker and a trail runner, and I literally just got back from a training run and thought I should probably record a little intro for this interview I did with Chris Stenberg via Zoom. Chris worked with me on a film called 50, and we've received some great feedback from people, so we thought it might be a good idea to share some tips if you're planning to make your own film, shooting it yourself, or maybe with some friends. There are some things you need to keep in mind with regard to cameras, but also editing. So I hope you enjoy this. We'll also talk a little bit about the popularity of long-distance trail running, ultramarathons. If you like this video, please click like and subscribe to our channel. We'll have more interviews coming up. Thank you.
The first thing to keep in mind is that there's going to be a little bit of setup and stop and go. It's pretty hard to shoot something in a compelling way and be in motion the whole time. I mean, I guess in theory, you could have your camera set up in a way that you could just take it out of your pocket and film while you're running, but then you're going to have a bit of a Blair Witch style production, I think. So, you know, if you're trying to complete something and also capture it in the same way and you're not in as much of a hurry, maybe you're not trying to set the world record or your PR, I think you can use things like a GoPro to pretty good effect that are nice and light. Yeah, if you had one of them, you'd probably bring multiple batteries, depending on how much filming and how far you were running. You'd probably have like at least 3 or 4 of them kind of charged and ready to go, and also an extra memory card or 2.
Just about at our first aid station at Lodestone, and I'm by myself.
Part of my filming would be me or, you know, yourself running and kind of doing the GoPro thing, talking a little bit, you know, have a little bit of a narrative. And then I would actually place the cameras and then run through the scene.
Back on the trail.
From a technical standpoint, even with what we were doing, I mean, it's easy to get very prescriptive about cameras and technical things, and you can get totally wrapped up in the gear and the filmmaking side of it. But really, ultimately, I think the story is the most important thing. So having a clear idea of what kind of story you're trying to tell, what are the kind of shots that are going to be important to that story, and how it's going to kind of push the narrative forward, so to speak. And if you know your route, you can definitely kind of pick key positions, like, you know, that Palmer's Pond. If you had known that was a great spot in advance, which you did, you could easily kind of set that shot up, run through it, and then kind of have a certain amount of those hero shots that have a great vista or interesting kind of scenery. And then on top of that, I would try and mix up the type of shots too. So you have a little bit of POV where you're running, holding the camera, showing what you're looking at. You know, you have a little bit of yourself, rear-facing camera looking towards you, talking maybe, or just running. And then have some of those wide vista shots where you've got the scenery and then maybe a few close-ups of, you know, the GoPro being waterproof. You can stick it in a creek or something and run through it and have your close-up of your feet going through. I think you could make a really kind of interesting story all on your own.
Yeah, and I think the biggest challenge with that is most people, when they're trail running, they're pretty focused on the time and how long it's going to take. So to spend that extra time working out camera shots is probably not for everyone. But I have, through the process of putting this film on YouTube, heard from a lot of people who have sent me links. And one of them in particular that comes to mind, I believe is from the Netherlands. And it was a great mixture of shots, and the person wasn't trying to set any records.
If you're trying to make a film, I don't think it can be a race in that sense if you're filming it yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, if the time is the most important thing and setting your best record for that particular route or whatever, I think that then, you know, having some other people help you out is the way to go.
8K in 27 minutes or so. We're on schedule. We keep seeing the flags. That's a good thing. So far, so good. For anyone who is looking to record in some way their long run, because if you've put in all that time and you're doing a 50 miler or a 100 miler and you want to capture it, maybe just for posterity, but just to share with other people, whatever the reason is, you have to keep that story in mind. Because in our case, you know, we didn't have a lot of drama. We really just captured what happened of start, middle, and end. And there was no bear attacks. There were no injuries. There were no major stomach problems. It's more of just a documentary capture of something that happened.
Keeping the end sort of intention in mind is important, and a story always kind of has that beginning, middle, and an end. And so pre-planning a little bit will help set the pace for the whole day in terms of the filming of it, and it also will help you not waste time on things that are not important. There is some element of spontaneity that's important, but I do think that at the end of the day, working towards that sort of vision will always help. And of course, it won't turn out exactly how you think in your head, but having thought about it and pre-planned some of it, much like we did, I think helps. And we had not only the run itself, but in the sort of days and months leading up to it, we had some filming as well. So that we knew that would help build out the story of trying to complete this run, having some of the training pieces and being able to focus a little more on those and spend a little more time filming those.
This is the camera that doesn't bounce.
Yeah.
Because it moves really slow when I turn it.
As a filmmaker who's involved in both research work and corporate work, you're really around a lot of different elements of running, from triathlons to some of these longer runs. What do you think the attraction is? Because it's growing, it seems, exponentially with 50K, 50 mile, 100 mile, and now even more intense, the 120 and 200 and something.
I mean, I think everybody has their own reasons for running. I think, and we've talked about this a little bit, but some people are running to something and some people are running away from it. And I think that may be part of that. But I think in the bigger picture of the trend of why these sort of ultra runs and things are so popular, I think there's always a healthy amount of people out there looking to push the boundaries and push the envelope of what they're capable of. And it's not always possible to train for an Ironman or other kinds of events that may be sort of multifaceted. But I think trail running is just a little bit like back to basics, right? Running on pavement is hard. The older you get, it's more difficult. Running in the woods has sort of a childlike feeling about it. It's easier on your body. I think there's less of a baseline for how fast you should be running. So it becomes more about your own individual feeling about it on the day. It's a completely wild and free kind of experience from those other things that are maybe like sometimes a little bit oppressive in sport. But I also think trail running has built up a really nice crowd of people that can kind of congregate in the woods and run together, and it's an all-comers meet and everybody's welcoming and it has a good vibe.
We are advancing to Lodestone in our first aid station. How are you feeling, Matt?
Feeling good.
Yeah. Good, me too. Feeling pretty good.
The other part of it is that I think in the world, we are increasingly distracted from kind of our core values with all the technology and all the other distractions and things happening on a day-to-day basis. Our lives are just getting faster and faster and faster. And I think trail running is a nice way to disconnect from all that, reconnect with your body, kind of grassroots, like you're at the start of something interesting feeling to it.
There's a marker. It's a good sign.
When you finish our first Ironman in 16 hours and the Jan Frodeno crosses the finish line in 8 hours, you're always going to have that in the back of your head. And there is that in trail running for sure. There's people that are going to be, hours and hours faster than you. But I don't think it's really about that at this point in the sport. The distance is so extreme for the average person that you still have something to go home and talk about, that you can be proud of, that you don't have someone else beaking in your ear that so-and-so did it in half the amount of time, right? It's a bit of an unknown to the average person still. So I think, the people that are running right now are really pioneers of the sport, and they're the kind of ambassadors of ultra distance running to their families and to their friends and things. And most people don't have multiple friends in their group that are out running 50 miles. It's still kind of obscure thing. And even 50 miles, yes, there are people going double that distance and beyond, right? So I think the achievement itself is probably one for yourself, and two, like a little bit of bragging rights. There's got to be like some pride in the fact that look what I did. And most people can't even fathom that. At this point, a lot of people have run a marathon once or twice or whatever, but most people will never run 50 miles or 100 miles, and certainly not through mountain passes in the dark and all these things. So.
How you feeling, buddy? Congratulations.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Less fry than when I saw you earlier. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. If you liked the video, please click like and subscribe to our channel.
We made it. It's over.